Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is, and it's time for another edition of Let's Argue, where I go on the internet, I take your hot takes, your unpopular opinions, your tough questions. I respond to the best ones. Let's do it! Kanye created a new instrument with the stem player. No, he did not. Objectively false. Thank you, buddy. That's a wrong one. The stem player is cool. I do mess with the stem player. I think it's a neat little dealie, but yeah, not a new instrument at all. I would kind of give it to you maybe if when you loaded a song into it, it stemmed out or EQ'd the frequencies inside of the device, but no, you have to actually like upload the stuff to a website in order for it to go back to the device. So in that respect, like there's nothing the stem player can do that a sampler or a groove box loaded with the stems of any given song, can't already do. Janet Jackson made better albums than Michael. MJ just made great songs that he forced into albums. I think a bunch of great single individual tracks can a good album make. In that respect, I think Michael Jackson has some good, very good classic albums, but I don't disagree with you totally on the premise here in that Janet's records overall are much more conceptual, and I actually do respect her very much for that, and that is kind of why, personally I do enjoy her music a little bit more. I think I'd rather listen to like, Velvet Rope than Thriller any given day, as much as I do like a lot of the highlights off Thriller. Being too catchy is absolutely a mark against a good song. I want to stop listening to a song when I turn it off, not for the next 3 hours in my head. I mean, songs can be catchy, and their memories can certainly linger in one's mind. I don't literally hear the song over and over in my head. So it's not that much of an inconvenience, number one. And number two, what would you rather? Like a boring song? A song you can't remember? A song that's forgettable? I mean, maybe some people, obviously you prefer that. What do you listen to? It's like, I want to listen to something real forgettable, man. I hate this shit I remember. Arctic Monkeys is currently the biggest rock band in the world and almost the only one? Are you saying they're almost the only rock band? Like, how many rock bands would there have to be out there in order for them to almost be the only rock band? Like 1,000? 100? 5? Sir, I assure you there are far more rock bands in the world than that. And I don't even see like their last record as being all that rock. I mean, obviously, like, they're still a rock band at the end of the day, but it's arguably their least rock-centric record yet. Are there not rock bands selling more than the Arctic Monkeys right now? I'm pretty sure there are. I'm pretty sure if Arctic Monkeys dropped a record tomorrow and went head-to-head with, like, I don't know, Foo Fighters or some shit, or even Machine Gun Kelly with a pop-punk follow-up, I'm not sure they would do as well commercially. Drum and bass music is the worst music to have sex to. Not if you want to have like really fast sex. Or maybe atmospheric drum and bass. The stuff that's a little more ambient leaning, if that's your vibe. Conservatives can make great art, actually. Some of the best hip-hop comes from artists that live pretty conservative lives. Kendrick, Lauryn Hill, and Kanye. Seems like your beef is more with conservative reactionaries than actually conservatives. This is why most political conversations are shit, because there's no agreement on, like, terms or context. Given my comment on this matter was in reaction to a tweet that was very political in nature, I think you could assume that when I was speaking about conservative, I didn't necessarily mean it in like whatever fucking abstract way that you mean here in terms of like leading a conservative life. Kendrick leads a conservative life because what? He's not like hedonistic or something? Look, you can rationalize this however the fuck you want, but to do it quickly and put a pin in it, the fact of the matter remains is that the video I was responding to was claiming that the left is no fun and we're fuddy-duddies and we're trying to control everyone's speech, and as a result of that, the next great music, the next great art movement, is going to come from the right as, an entity, as a culture, which is not going to happen because every relevant and interesting, groundbreaking music movement and art movement in popular culture has never come from the right. It's never come from the right. And often whatever that new movement is usually demonized by the right wing. Did the right wing embrace rock and roll music when it first came onto the scene in the 50s? No. Did it embrace hippie culture, disco, funk and soul, and the culture that surrounded those genres of music? No. Hip hop? No. Punk? No. Metal? No. Conservatism was way more enchanted with a satanic panic around a lot of those genres at the time. Too busy doing that to embrace it. So yeah, because of that, the next great art is not going to come from the right. Whenever something new comes along in the world of art, conservatives are the first to stomp on it, are the first to call it out as being degenerate and this and that. And finally, on top of it with these artists, kind of the thing that you're missing here, the cognitive dissonance, is that conservatives don't really acknowledge the existence of systemic racism, which all of these artists here do, and that's kind of a no-no. So when rappers put their own voice in the background track, commenting on a line they said in the foreground track, just hire a hype man and stop talking to yourself. I don't know. Personally, I think the fact that it's so easy to overdub things now and do quick little funny ad-libs in your tracks is great, is awesome. And I don't know, who's to hate on this thing being a trend now, given that it's been such a, I guess, pivotal way of defining the music of Eminem, for example. Eminem's freaking goofy, cartoony fucking ad-libs are all over the Slim Shady LP, all over the Marshall Mathers LP. Artists ad-libbing on their stuff, it's nothing new. But, maybe you're onto something. Maybe hype men need to kind of come back. The less hair you have on your head, the better music you make. Frank Black, Brian Eno, Kanye has cut a lot of hair off of his head recently. But also Moby. In the streaming age, cover artwork censorship is worse than in the 60s! How the hell do you freaking figure? Pretty much any mainstream cover that was too risque in the 60s would just pass. Without a fucking question in 2021, would just pass because whatever the hell was taboo in the 1960s is not what is socially taboo today because the envelope has been pushed so fucking far. Number two, there's the fact that if you want to come out with a really nasty and a really gory cover, there's tons of underground labels and indie options to do exactly that. Piss Grave album covers come to mind, the new Arm & Hammer record with The Alchemist comes to mind. Obviously, indie labels have no issue with having, a nice pair of drawn boobs. A little nudity for art's sake is certainly not forbidden here and there. Then when it comes to more mainstream stuff, there's salacious covers flying left and right, whether it be from Megan Thee Stallion or Lil Nas X. When stuff is censored, often the cover comes out anyway, at least digitally, and then online you can still see the cover and find it somewhere if you really want to see it. There's so many avenues to put out art now that's totally outside of, the traditional means that you would have found in the industry in the 1960s that I don't see your argument here, man. The loudness war over compressed mixing and mastering is good. Actually, look, I listen to and review compressed music all the time. It's the majority of what I review since I review a lot of new shit. So I'm not against compression in general. I think it serves a purpose. I think it can be a good thing, but I think that, you can really go overboard with it. A lot of artists do, unfortunately. And, I think you kind of kneecap your point here by saying something is over-compressed, the loudness war, over-compressing something. I mean, once you've gone over with it, by definition, it's kind of too much, So I'm never going to come on here and endorse over-compressing something. I mean, there are some experimental and maybe some more noise and more abrasive contexts where, that makes sense. But the idea of over-compressing things to the point where they sound awful, you can overdo it. Compression is just in my view, it operates very differently, obviously, but in my view, like any other effect, You can use too much distortion on a track. You can use too much reverb on a track. You can use almost too much anything on a track. And the point where you've gone over is the point that you should avoid. And that is going to do it for this episode of Let's Argue, everyone. I love you. Mwah. Anthony Fantano, Let's Argue, music, internet, YouTube. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. And yeah, you're the best. Forever.